first question, what would you change to enhance your learning experience within the course? Michelle, go ahead.
So, me and the group were talking, and I felt like, in order to get a better understanding of what it is you're looking for in the reading, if you could like post a thesis question with the reading, and then like the due dates as well.
Um, no, and here's why. Um, if I post thesis questions, you'll just read for the thesis, and that's it. Part of your journal is to read and extract the thesis. What I don't want to do is be a directing or a guiding force for your reading, right? Part of reading is developing a system of approaching a text and being able to extract the information that you need from the text. This is why I provide you with your journals, which require you to state for me your thesis, your analysis, your contemporary analysis, and your question. Those four components are designed to give you like a rubric, if you will, of how to read something and what you should walk away with. Does that make sense? So if
Mm-hmm.
I just give you these thesis questions, I guarantee you all that you'll read for is just trying to answer that question. And you'll miss out on all the other things that the reading may offer you just because you're looking to address that one question. Furthermore, there may be things that you all see in the reading that I missed. So allowing it to be open allows for the possibilities to you for you to present to me information that I did not think about. Does that make sense? So I understand the question or the desire or the suggestion that you're trying to make, but do you understand my rationale as to why that will kind of thwart what I'm trying to get you all to do as scholars?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? What could be changed to enhance your learning experience?
I think posting the lectures that you record would be helpful sometimes because I think, yeah, like there's times like I go back to re-listen to the lectures just to get like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's just good to go back and re-listen sometimes to maybe catch something you didn't catch right then and there. You'll catch later on.
No,
And
you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, Sam. And that is my fault. Just to be with you, I've been lagging on that. Because of the files are very large. I can't just like take the file and post it onto Canvas because it won't upload it. So I have to like post it to YouTube to make it a YouTube link to post to the Canvas. My goal will be by the time we get back from spring break to have all of those videos uploaded. It's just I haven't did it and I got like super behind on it. I'm like for all of my classes at Cal State LA, I haven't been posting any videos, so I need to kind of just take a couple of days and just bang those out. So I'll definitely take that on the chin. You're right. That's a service that I should have been providing to you all beginning from the beginning of the semester. I just got caught up and got behind. So I definitely will get that up to you all by the end of spring break. So thank you for that. Other changes that could be made.
We couldn't. So is this class supposed to be asynchronous, or could we also have one in person?
This is a Zoom only class.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I can't change that portion. This is what, to
dang.
my understanding, y'all signed up for. This is what I signed up for. So this is definitely via Zoom. Anyone else before we move on to the second question? Okay. What is not working for you within the course? What is not working for you? So everything is perfect. Everything is going along just well. There's no alterations or things that aren't working out for you. Go ahead, Gianna.
Um, when we're having like discussion towards the end of class, you like kind of finish it up for us. But then there's certain things where I like have follow-up questions, but then it's the end and obviously we have things to do, but um I wish that we would have like more like open discussion to the things that you say towards the end of class to kind of like learn more from. I guess like sometimes like you say things like very like matter of factly, and I want to know like why you feel that way, or like to learn more about what you're saying, like where the information's coming from. So I don't know. I would love more like us like conversing like
Okay.
as a class.
So yes, and I feel that too. Even as I'm speaking and I'm looking at the clock at the same time, and I want to kind of get done to allow us to get out on time. And then for me, like literally, once this class is over, I have to start my next class. So it's another reason why I'm very much trying to be on the clock. But I feel that oftentimes it ends abruptly, and it's like things are still like lingering. What I trying to think how I could combat that. Because one thing, far as the structuring of the course, maybe what we could do, Gianna, and we could think about this and tease this out. Maybe less time in breakout rooms. So maybe not 10 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. And that gives us another 3 minutes to kind of have that discussion, which isn't much, right? Like that 3 minutes will go by hella fast. But that maybe allow for a little bit more space. Another thing that I would ask of you then is like maybe jot some of these things down, and then you can shoot it to me via email. And then what I could do is maybe start off class the next time that we meet addressing what your concern is. Or you could just hold it, and then I kind of leave space for you all to kind of shoot the shit about whatever's on your mind, but no one uses that opportunity, right? So maybe you could use that moment to kind of address some of those questions that you had lingering from last time that we met. Does that sound fair? All right, so what we'll do then is we'll try to do like 7 minute breakout groups. I'll check in with you all, see if that seems too short, and if it seems cool, then we'll continue with that. But I will ask everyone, right? Like if there's things that you feel are still lingering, or there's things that you would like for me to go in greater depth on, or provide like more resources for, right? Write that down. You can either email it to me, you can either put it in the chat, or use that time at the start of class to kind of allow me to iron some of those things out. Does that sound fair? All right, bet. Valerie, you had your hand up?
Hi, yeah. I joined a little bit late, so I think the question was like, what is unsatisfactory, I
Yeah,
guess,
so what's
about the
not
course.
working for you or
Um, yeah, to agree with Gianna, sometimes I feel like the breakout rooms are actually counterproductive. Like a lot of the times when the readings are a little bit more dense, hearing everybody else's like opinions on the readings doesn't really help me, but hearing your explanation is more effective. So I feel like I guess what I'm trying to say is that like breakout rooms are cool, but another issue is that sometimes people just don't read, which everybody has their own stuff going on, or sometimes people are unable to participate in the breakout room and it feels like it's taking away from class time as opposed to like adding to my actual understanding of the readings.
okay. Um, well received. And I think what we'll definitely do with that being said, because well, here, let me ask you this. There's a difference for me between someone not reading and having nothing to say juxtaposed to someone's opinion or theorization on the book compared to mine, right? So are you is your experience more of people not having anything to say, or just their interpretation of the reading is not sufficient compared to my interpretation?
Mostly people not having anything to say, and also just people like sometimes somebody will have a really good idea, and then that's it. Like we all just think that's a good idea, and nobody else kind of adds on.
Okay.
So I think yeah, I feel like sometimes we spend a little bit too long in the breakout rooms.
Okay. So couple things. So we're definitely going to reduce the breakout time. But two, what I'm also hearing is part of your all self responsibility, right? I can't make you read. I can't make you be prepared for class. That's part of your agreement for this space to work. You all have to be prepared. So a part of this is beyond my control because that's really predicated on you all doing the reading, right? That's predicated on you all engaging in conversation. So what I think should also be mentioned or be accounted for is the inability for someone to be prepared negatively impacts someone else in the class, right? This is why it is a collective project. This is why everyone's participation is dependent on that, right? Because to Valerie's point, if there's someone who's lagging, it impacts the experience of everyone else. Part of also the reason why I want to have these breakout rooms is to create a space for you all to cross dialogue. Sometimes I know that to get asked a question and you felt like you're put on the spot, it's hard to come up with responses in the moment. So at least this way, having these discussions in breakout groups, when you are asked something, you could pull from the breakout group. It also allows for those who aren't for the when you're called on for your fish bowls, you should have something to say because you discussed this in the breakout groups. So these are like the intentions behind the breakout groups. But if I'm hearing that it's being ineffective just because people aren't prepared, one, y'all need to be prepared. But two, what we'll definitely do is reduce the time of the breakout groups. So maybe it'll go even down to 5 minutes if it's not, being sufficient. Does that sound? Does that make sense to you, Valerie?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anyone else have things that are not working for them? All right. We'll go to the last question then. What do you need more of? What can I do to increase, or what should we have more of to increase your learning experience? One, I've heard more time for open discussion, so I definitely made a note of that. What else could be added or increased to increase your learning experience? All right. If no one has anything to say, we'll move forward. To close this out, has anyone had a professor ask them what needs to be done to increase their learning experience, or allowed you the space to put an input on your course experience? You have, Gianna? No, Nolani, you as well. Okay, so it's a common thing. Okay, bet. That's good to know. Here's a second part to that statement then. I'm willing to take your feedback and make these adjustments. And as you'll see throughout the semester, like the adjustments that have been made, they will be implemented. But just as I'm willing to make changes and look at what my work is, right? And make the adjustments to improve this scenario for you, you all have to look at your work and your output and look at what you're bringing to the space. Because to what Valerie is saying, I have no jurisdiction on that. I can't make you all read. I can't make you all be prepared. That's the expectation. That's the demand. But that's the extent that I can go. So it's incumbent upon you that you do what's necessary to make sure that you get out of this what you need. So I'm willing to make my adjustments. I'm willing to critique my performance, right? But you have to be willing to do the same. And part of that is being honest with yourself. Like, man, am I reading? And y'all know you if you're reading or not. And if not, you need to step that shit up. It's just what it is. For the not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of your fellow classmate, because this is a collective experience. All right, so check it out. Far as your midterms, as I mentioned, you'll have 5 essay questions. I'm asking you to answer 3 of the 5 questions. So you could choose which one you want to answer. If there's a topic that you feel more comfortable with, then choose that because that's what you feel more comfortable with. It is a take-home test. So you have your resources available to you. Use your journal. It will be available on Canvas on March 21st. So on March 21st, you'll be able to see the midterm, you'll be able to pull the midterm up, and you'll be able to start working on the midterm. The midterm will be due a week from today. So March 25th by 11:59 p.m., the midterm will be due. Along with your midterm, you also have to submit your journals. So they will be submitted at the same time. Make sure that your journals are done electronically. If you wrote the journals out, you would have to type those up so you can submit them via PDF or via Word. Both the midterm, both the journals will be submitted electronically, so make sure you have an electronic copy of your midterm and your journal. My suggestion to you, you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You have 5 days to complete 3 answers. My suggestion is to take 1 day, answer 1 question. So you have all your answers done within 3 days. That gives you 2 days to revise. I'm not looking for it to be a perfectly polished essay. What I'm looking for is that you address the questions. Do not write 1 complete essay answering all 3 questions. So let's just say, for example, you're answering question 1, 3, and 5. Write your response to question 1. Stop. Let me know this is my response to question 3. Rewrite your response. Stop. Let me know this is my response to question 5. Then write your response. You should have 3 separate essay responses for your paper. Does that make sense? So it should not read as 1 complete essay. How people do bad on the test. What fucks people up, they do not give themselves enough time to complete the assignment. If you think you're gonna sit down on Monday and start the assignment, you've already set yourself up in a hole. It's not that type of essay. If you do not give yourself the time to read the question in its entirety, you will miss points on the essay. And let me pull up the study guide so you can see what I mean. Did everybody see this? Okay. So for example, if we're looking at the first bullet point here, now the intention of the study guide, this is not the answers, or this is not the question for your midterm. These are questions that are designed to get you thinking about the midterm. If you can answer the questions on the study guide, then you should be able to answer the questions on the midterm, right? So do not think that these are the exact same questions that you will find on the midterm, but it gives you an idea of how these questions may be framed and formatted. So for example, looking at the first bullet point, exactly how old are African people? And why is this information significant for understanding history? Name 2 significant African individuals and their contributions prior to European conquest or the inception of modernity. So this could be thought of as 1 complete question. But in this 1 question, you have about 4 sub-questions. So for example, exactly how old are African people? Sub-question 1. Why is this information significant for understanding history? Sub-question 2. Name 2 significant African individuals, sub-question 3, and their contributions prior to European conquest or the inception of modernity, sub-question 4. Another way to think about this 1 question is worth 4 points. So if you tell me how old African people are, and you tell me why this information is important for understanding history, and you name for me 2 African individuals, but you do not tell me their contributions, then you only get 3 out of the 4 points. Does that make sense? So this is why I'm saying to give yourself enough time to read the question in its entirety and then answer the question in its entirety. There's no word limit. There's no word count. I don't care about how long or how short it is. What I care about is that you answer the question in its entirety. If that takes you a page, cool. If that takes you 2 paragraphs, cool, right? I don't believe you'll be able to answer this in like a 3 sentences. So if I see a 3-sentence, a 2-sentence answer, I'm already going to be suspicious that you did not answer the whole question, right? So again, I'm not worried about page length. I'm not worried about word count. What I'm worried about is that you answer the question in its entirety. How old are African people? Who could provide me an answer to how old African people are? There's 3 acceptable answers. Go ahead, Michelle.
I know it wasn't about how old they are, but I was asking, is it supposed to be like a 5-paragraph essay? Or could it just be more than 5 paragraphs?
Again, I don't care how long it is. All I care about is that you answer each component of the question. All right.
Okay.
So who could tell me how old African people are? Think to the first week of class, the slideshow lecture that was presented.
Is it like 7 million years?
7 to 8 million years old. Yep, that's one answer. There's two more answers that are acceptable. The first of which being 3.2 million years. I gave the example of Lucy, but we gave her the African name Abiomi, right? And then the more accurate answer is unknown. If you're going to use unknown, which again is the more accurate answer, you must state the reason why it's unknown. The reason why it's unknown, the deeper that they dig, the more that they research, the older African people become. So the
Are
three.
they? Oh, sorry. I was gonna ask, are they still doing research to find out how old exactly Black people are? I mean, the Black civilization is. Are they still doing research?
I don't know if they're researching for that specifically, but what happens is as they're researching, whatever they're researching, they'll find remains that predate what they thought the inception of humanity were. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the three acceptable answers for how old African people are: 3.2 million years, 7 to 8 million years, or unknown. Again, if you're going to use unknown, you must state it's because the deeper that they research, the older African people become. Somebody name for me an African individual prior to European contact and why that individual is important. Go ahead, Gianna.
Mansa Musa.
Perfect. And why is Mansa Musa significant?
He had a $400 billion empire, and he was known for like being the king of kings and how much gold he had, and like that he would just give out gold to people.
All right, perfect. Name for me another individual prior to European contact and why that individual is significant. Go ahead, Valerie.
Imhotep.
Perfect. And why is Imhotep important?
He was like the first ever like genius in all fields. Like he was the Renaissance man before the Renaissance even existed.
Perfect. All right, I'll take that.
He basically wrote like the. I don't know if the Bible came before him, but he basically pre-wrote like the commandments.
You're thinking of Ptahhotep.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you're thinking of Ptahhotep. Yeah,
Oh,
Imhotep and Ptahhotep are two separate people. But
oh, sorry. I thought she said Tahotep. I couldn't hear. It was in and out.
okay, all good. But you're not wrong. So thinking about the next bullet point, right? To Michelle's point. I'm gonna read the question and then we'll begin to break the question down. What is significant about the teachings of Ptahhotep as it pertains to understanding who African people truly are? How does the text speak to the values and principles that shaped ancient African society? So what is being asked here is for you to think about this book, but think about how this book is a reflection of who African people are, right? So if you're going to try to get a depiction of who these people are who call themselves African, and you have this book that's going to give you the details about who these people are, what does this book say about who these people are? And then the question is asking you to think about the values and the principles that shape the ancient African societies. So, one, you're gonna have to think about the values and the principles that are espoused in the book, right? What are some of the main values and principles within the teachings of Ptahhotep? And then once you're able to locate those values and principles, then think about how they begin to shape the way that the society operates, right? So, what are some of the values from the teachings of Ptahhotep? Go ahead, Gianna.
Silence, I remember, is one of them. And like timing for things.
Okay. Or another way to think about that is a patience, right? Allowing things to kind of come your way. But silence absolutely is a value that is taught in the teachings of Ptahhotep. Valerie?
Like inner peace, essentially, like peacefulness.
Peacefulness, not only inner peace, but also the peace within the society as a whole. Because remember, the thesis of the text Ptahhotep's desire within the text is to produce a society that is strifeless, right? So yes, you have to have inner peace to be able to manifest a peaceful society, right? So not only inner peace, but also peace being resonated through society. What's another value that is talked about within the teachings of Ptahhotep?
To be a great listener to those before you.
Absolutely, listener. To listen. Let me listen. Let me speak to those who are willing to listen to the words of the gods, right? So this aspect of listening is important. But also this notion of the metu nefer, right? The medu nefer, the MDW nefer, NFR, good speech. So yes, you want to be silent. Yes, you want to listen, right? But when you do speak, make sure it's good speech. Make sure it's conversations that build people up, not tear people down. Make sure that it's truthful, right? Make sure that it's not harmful, right? This is a principle that is foundational within the text because through the Metu Nefer, this is how Ptahhotep will establish a strifeless society. So now that we have some ideas of the principles and the values of the society, what does it say about the society itself? Valerie, go ahead. I think.
Oh, I forgot to lower my hand, but I guess like what does it say about society itself? I guess
About that society, about this particular society.
um that they needed the teachings because it wasn't like that, and then the teachings are a way to guide people.
Okay. Gianna, you had your hand up?
Yes, bouncing off of what you were saying is like it sounds like their community and like their land is very broken and people are not willing to learn from those who are more knowledgeable and have life experience. So yeah, just like people how they've always been have been like um not united and not being like good people, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. And that makes sense, right? How I was thinking about it is a people in a society that values truth. It's a people in a society that values peace. It's a people in a society that values good speech. But both are acceptable, right? Both are valid answers. Um, So looking at what's being stated in the chat, they value oral lessons in the practice of respecting speech. They overall strive to be humble and just people. Absolutely, right? That's also a sufficient analysis of the values of the Kemetic society, right? So this is how I want you all to be thinking through these questions, right? This is the type of internal dialogue that you should be having with yourself as it pertains to answering these questions. And again, you have your resources available to you. You could go back and pick up the text and reread the text. You go back and pick up your journal and re-engage your journal. But again, this is the level of discourse you should be able to have with these two texts. All right, we'll move into stereotypes and destruction, looking at Joseph Harris's text, the chapter A Tradition of Myths and Stereotype. So again, speaking of your journals, right? Asking for the thesis. So you should be able to go to your journal entry for Harris's text and restate which you wrote down as the thesis or the notes that you gathered from that particular lecture and be able to revisit those as a form of thesis, right? So you should be able to articulate the thesis of the text. It also asks you to be able to engage Harris' assertion of European expansion's greatest contribution to the New World. So he makes a claim that the Europeans' greatest contribution to the New World is X. You should be able to speak to what that claim is. Think about the role religion, Christianity in particular, has played in shaping the views and image of African people, and then be prepared to engage a discourse on the role some scholars play and trying to diminish African contribution to human civilization by displacing Kemet out of Africa. So what would you argue are some of the main points or the thesis of a tradition of myths and stereotypes?
Sorry, I had to open up my journal.
Okay.
But what I wrote was that this reading seems like it exists in order to challenge some of the myths and stereotypes that harm African people now in our current world. An example being when wait what did I write? Oh, an example being when they talk about Noah's curse of Ham, and then I just wrote like I summarized it.
Okay, perfect. The only thing that I would add to that, Valerie, is adding some type of mention of it being a historical account, right? You're absolutely right about everything that you said. You just want to kind of incorporate the notion that how Harris is going about this is through looking at history to trace back the origins of how some of these myths and stereotypes started, right? So you definitely want to incorporate the notion of history, because even if you think about the actual title of the book, right? Africans and their history. This notion of history is foundational to how he's thinking about these myths and stereotypes. So everything that you said is spot on. You just want to make sure that you incorporate this aspect of history, okay?
Gotcha.
Okay. So Harris makes this assertion that Europeans' greatest contribution to the New World is X. Within the text on the bottom of page 10, going to the top of page 11, Harris states, it must be emphasized, therefore, that one of the greatest contributions Europeans made to the New World was the expansion and entrenchment of the concept of Black inferiority. So the greatest the greatest contribution, according to Harris, of Europeans to the New World is the expansion, right? To expand this idea and the entrenchment, to fortify this idea, to ground this idea, to solidify this idea that Black folks are inferior, right? So what he argues is the greatest contributions of Europeans to the New World is the notion of Europe, or the notion of Black inferiority, and their ability to expand that notion and to entrench that notion. So think about the role religion, Christianity in particular, has played in shaping the view and image of African people. So how was Christianity used to shape the way that we view and imagine African people? Go ahead, Valerie.
Christianity has been a way to kind of, I guess, marginalize African people and villainize them, not only through the curse of Ham, where it was like, well, Black people are related to the brother that saw the father naked. Like, that makes no sense in the first place. But it also, in terms of just color, like the color Black in Christianity, and especially in Catholicism, oh, I can't say it, represents evilness. And I remember being little and like, I remember being told that like the devoid of light is Black, and Black is evil, and Black is the devil. So it's just like a tool to enforce in people's brains that like not just colorism but racism is okay through the church.
Absolutely. The religious justification of racism and anti-Blackness. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So this idea, right? So it's saying be prepared to engage in a discourse. So be able to talk about the roles that various scholars play in trying to diminish African contributions to human civilization by displacing Kemet or Egypt out of Africa. So the idea is this, and he talks about this within the reading very, very, very astutely. If Africans have not contributed anything to the world, right? But at the same time we say that Kemet or Egypt is the cradle of civilization, both can't be true, right? In fact, if we argue that African people have never contributed anything to the world, and we say that that Kemet is also the cradle of civilization, then we lying about something, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say that Egypt or Kemet is not a part of Africa. We're going to say that Egypt or Kemet is part of the Middle East, right? So this is what is meant by displacing Kemet out of Africa. Now, logically, if you look at a map, you see how fucking simple it is that Egypt is within Africa, right? But again, to think about this intellectual maneuver that's trying to be pulled to say that, no, actually Egypt is part of the Middle East, only for the fact to deny the African presence and the African contribution, right, to world history, to human civilization. This is the purpose of that. So what I'm asking you is to be able to talk about that at some capacity, right? So one, understand what's being asked of you. And then once you understand what's being asked of you, be prepared to write your thoughts about what's being asked on paper, right? This is what I mean when I say be prepared to engage in a discourse. Be prepared to talk about X. Does this make sense? So this is why I say, this is why I cannot emphasize enough. If you sit down on Monday at 5 p.m. and think you're about to bang out this midterm, it's not gonna bode well for you. Give yourself the time to do it. Again, I suggest one question per day. That's a very good pace to allow you to get done with this and not be stressed out. I'm gonna put us on pause here. We will leave Wednesday to finish the destruction of Black civilization, Van Sertima, and Du Bois. We didn't read Ida B. Wells, so we won't get into that. That won't be on the midterm, but we'll finish up Chancellor Williams, Van Sertima, and Du Bois on Wednesday. Now, granted, we're not done with our midterm prep, right? Like, so understand that. We're going to take all of Wednesday to get you prepared for your midterm. But based on what we've done so far, how do you feel about the approaching midterm? I think Valerie and Gianna, y'all ain't gonna have a problem based off of how you've been responding to the questions posed so far. The rest of y'all, I don't know. I can't say. My suggestion to you for Wednesday also is this. The study guide is available to you on Canvas, actually. This is the midterm study guide here. Actually, let me go to your class so you can just be accurate.
Excuse me, Professor, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I know I asked you about like accessing the Zoom recordings prior to the midterm. Is that not like, are we not going to be able to do that, or like?
I don't have them up yet. I'm gonna be real.
That's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to know if that was going to be.
What I was gonna do is use the spring break to get those posted. But no, I don't have those. But
That's okay.
Okay, but hear me out though. This is what I'm asking of you, so that way we kind of circumvent that problem. This is your study guide. Open that up. It's the exact same thing that I was working through earlier today. It's the exact same document. Read through this, please. Look through your journals. Compare what you have from the study guide to your journals. If there's holes or discrepancies, write that down. We'll take some time on Wednesday addressing those questions that you have based off of you reading the study guide and comparing and contrasting to your journal. That way we could be more direct in addressing some of the questions that you may have about the midterm. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?